Hello there fellow modelers, and welcome to our rapid video build of the A-18 Super Hornet. This is by Meng models and it's in 1/48 scale. So let's get started by opening up the box, and what you'll find is this kit has absolutely lovely surface detail all round with raised recessed panel lines, recessed rivets, a gorgeous internal cockpit as well, as you can see. Before we get started, we're going to be using the HPBH throughout this video from Iwata, and we got given this by airbrush.com. Right, it has a 0.2mm needle for some fine detail and a 1.5mm colour cup. So if you're interested in this airbrush, please go check out airbrush.com. Coming in with Vallejo's 56 and 50, thin them a 50-50 mix and give them a good stir. Now we're going to start off with the black green here, and this is going to be our base for what we're going to do is some Zenithal on the actual cockpit. This is so as when we come in with the our light grey here, which is the Vallejo 050, we can create highlights and stuff. And by the way, this airbrush does have a nice feature where you can basically have a regulator on the airbrush. So as you can see, you've got to come in at that correct angle. You know, you just want to be shooting down just so as the top bits get sprayed 050, and then you've got this kind of feathered in bit going down the bottom to give us that kind of like dark look at the bottom of the cockpit. Bit of masking tape here just to kind of tidy things up just at the back there, and we can remove that and have everything nice and neat. Now we're going to be doing some decaling here with micro sol. We're going to whack that on first, not micro set. We're going to come in nice and strong because we've got all these buttons that our decals need to conform to. A nice needle as well, just to kind of position it just right, and then we're going to whack the micro sol straight back on top of that, and you've got to just keep whacking it on until everything nicely conforms. As you can see, really good decals and really looks good. Now with the Mr. White putty, we're going to be using a spatula just to kind of fill in. We've got a bunch of ejector pin marks in there. You want to use a nice sponge sanding stick to go with the curve on this, even a bit of a wet sand at the end just to get rid of those ejector pin marks. Now we're going to come in with the Tamiya cement, the thick one, right, and we're going to glue this on old school style so as we can get some oozing going on with the plastic, right, getting the plastic to dissolve a bit, and you give it a bit of a wiggle and we get that plastic to start oozing out, right, and this is so we can get rid of the gaps that you have inside these air intakes to make it easier for sanding. Even using a normal paintbrush, we can, you know, apply the Tamiya extra thin cement and just keep rubbing at it to kind of blend in and feather in all that sort of wet, oozed up plastic. Once we've done that, we can come in with some H11. Oh, sorry, before we do that, we're going to just sand away with again a sponge sanding stick, nice and fine. Then it's going to be H11 white, just to spray all the inside, which should be nice and easy and nice and smooth in there. Now you might have to get your airbrush right in there, but if you just spiral out of it, you can sort of stop getting that overspray. Now I did have a mistake here. I got some oil or something on and it made spots. You know, just give it a rub down with maybe water and soap. Let's begin gluing our model together. We're going to use Tamiya cement and extra thin cement to actually glue this together. It's good to use both glues. The thicker one is good for like getting internal stuff glued together, and Tamiya extra thin cement is good to get those join lines glued together for it to soak in and get that capillary action into all those joints. Now we do have on our wingtips just here, like there is a couple of ejector pin marks that do need to be like sanded down so as it fits together and we kind of remove any kind of gaps. Now you do have to be careful with this one, right? You do want to sort of fine sand it, test fit, fine sand it, test fit, just to get things to go on nice and straight. Not a major fit issue, it's just kind of like, again, you know, test fit, sand a bit, and test fit again. and then we could peg that down and get it all sort of nice and Tamiya extra thin cement, getting it all in position nice and good. With that all kind of together now, I'm going to just sort of mask up around those areas that we did some where we've got our glue lines. This is to protect any sort of surface detail from filling, sanding, scribing. As a note, this piece here does actually cover up one of those join lines, so we don't really have to kind of pay too much attention to that if you don't want to, depending on what position you're going to have your, is it horizontal? No, horizontal stabilizer. Same goes for this little area just here that both Hasegawa and Meng models has a problem with this. Now you can sort of cut your masking tape as well, so it kind of curves around, makes it kind of a little bit thinner. Using the green putty now just to fill in all these little gaps that we have with this kit. There's a couple in there. Again, you know, it's not terrible, it's better than the Hasegawa, but you know, you got those couple of gaps. Coming in with a Mr. Surfacer 500, I do like to kind of put that on where it's not so gappy, you know, it can, you know, it just needs a little bit of Mr. Surfacer. I even like to go off and paint it on top of the green putty as well, just to give it an added bit of extra filler. And you kind of want to add coat after coat to that until it seems to have filled whatever gap it is you're after. Now the Mr. Tools tool cleaner here as well, really good for cleaning up your paintbrushes after using things like Mr. Surfacer. We're going to start off with a nice, shall we say, a coarse sanding stick, just to kind of try and get rid of the majority of the actual filler, not really sanding into plastic, and then we can turn it over, go to a medium grit, you know, remove more of the filler and start to kind of touch the actual plastic area. Remember to use like the sponge sanding sticks when it comes to curved areas. Again, going down your grits, you know, medium, fine and even finer. I'm kind of coming in with a bit of a polishing type sanding stick here now, just to kind of like blend the surface in and kind of get it like the rest of the surface detail. A good little tip here is to come in with some paint, a bit of black paint, painting on all your areas, and you'll be able to hopefully see what work that still needs to be done. You can then sand away, just sanding away just the actual paint, and any kind of dips or gaps or cracks or anything, the paint will be left behind, so it really indicates where work needs to be done. Now coming to the Scriber 2 by Tamiya, really good tool for doing a bit of P cutting. You can do it freehand if you want. I mean, if there's enough of a recess there, you can, you know, nicely sort of actually kind of go freehand, as I say, but you might want to come in with a template on those longer, straighter recess panel lines. Then we have some more Mr. Surface here, just to kind of take care of those little discrepancies that we had. If you remember, the black paint showed it up for us. Using a sewing needle in a hand vise, really good one here, just to do our recess rivets. I do prefer using it this method. I know it's kind of a bit slow, but I find it's more accurate. And there you go, we've got all that recess, all that filling, sanding, scribing all done there. But now we're putting on the nose section. Just going to clamp that down to try and remove any sort of gaps, and then we'll come with the Tamiya extra thin cement and let that soak into all those little areas and dissolve them and get a sort of good joint. We got this little, well, kind of a biggish gap here. Now I'm doubling up on the masking tape, so there's 2 layers of masking tape, so it kind of raises it up just like a nice hairline, so that when we apply the green putty just here, it's going to give us a perfectly straight line where the gap is and have it slightly raised, which you should see in a bit, a nice little example. When Mr. Tool Cleaner's come out again. This is a good one. You can get the green putty, mix it with Tool Cleaner, and you end up getting kind of like a bit of a Mr. Surfacer kind of consistency, and we can just paint that on top as well, just to kind of get rid of any sort of micro gaps. Now when we remove this, we've got this perfectly where the gap is, but it's slightly raised. And the cool thing about this is any shrinkage should hopefully not apply here because we've had it so raised. You give it enough time to dry and you sand it away, use it going down the grits as normal, and you should hopefully have a really nice smooth gapless finish. And then just a bit of rescribing again in those areas just to finish it off. Again, black paint, always good to get that out and just check, make sure everything is all good. Now we have our stabilizers, or I forget which one it was called, but yes, we want to cut them off only because it wasn't positioned very well when you use those location tabs. It's kind of best to just have it free to play around as much as you want and position it just right. Now you do get these polycaps with this kit, which is quite cool because all your fuel tanks and bombs can be interchanged and you can have different ones on. Really cool feature. Now some washes, dark grey and blue grey, with some odorless thinners by AK. We can mix this together because it's a little bit thick, the Humbrol washes. I think I'm using the dark grey to start off with, which is good colour for our black areas. We want to just kind of like slap it on, and then you can sort of go off and kind of dry your paintbrush off, and then you can kind of soak up any pool up areas that there might be, or kind of like, you know, again, keep cleaning it off on a kitchen paper towel so it's dry. Even clean the brush as well, and you can start removing it from areas where you don't want it, big flat areas, that kind of stuff. Now once it's dried, we could just give it a dust down, right, and this will try and sort of feather things in a bit, sort of remove the wash off of the surfaces, leave it in the recesses. If it gets a bit stubborn, you can use a cotton wool bud to rub at it a bit more. If it gets really stubborn, you can come along with a paintbrush with some finish to rehydrate and get rid of those kind of nasty little marks that can be left behind. And with all that tidying up, you should have a well-weathered bit of cockpit going on there. Hopefully, as you can see here, with it all finished, pilots in and everything, and all those lovely display panels that we did that were of decals. Now the actual canopy masks with this kit are actually rather good, quite different from things like Edard and stuff, but if you find a nice corner and get that corner just right, you can then move to each corner and fold it down so it's precisely in position. They do fit rather well. As you can see, just take your time with that. And then we get just, you know, nice clean cloth, clean inside, because we're going to glue this on with some micro crystal clear. I like to use a cocktail stick and we'll just run it along the edges like so. Maybe give it like 10 seconds before you lay it down, just so it's a bit tacky, and just position it nice and lightly. Cotton wool bud just to clean up any oozed out bits, and that should be good, and that way we can at least remove it at the end. Now Vallejo plastic putty is going to be your friend with this kit. There are quite a few little gaps, you know, nothing that you need to make a seamless seam line, but like there's little gaps like this, you know, where we can just apply it really easily with its pointy nose there and wipe away with a cotton wool bud. Gonna need that a lot with this kit. Just polishing this down. I just want to sort of see and check, make sure there's no dust or debris on the inside, so I don't have to like open it up. And a bit of mascal at this stage. Right, whack it on. Nice thick coats, right, really thick, so we ain't going to get anything come through. We now begin by spraying the underside. Now a bit of masking tape here just to mask up those areas you want kind of like sharp lines, or you don't want any overspray going on. Pretty easy stuff. I'm going to start off with just doing a bit of pre-shading just to kind of like tidy up those areas that have had some overspray from the top colour, just so we keep all that pre-shading. Fill it down with some hobby colours, and our bottom colour is going to be 308 by Hobby Colour. Mix this about a 50-50 mix, and we simply just do a nice good old-fashioned base coat, and we can just peel off this masking tape to reveal a nice straight lines, as you can see. Just be careful not to peel too much. We don't want to peel off the paint. And then we're going to do some bleaching, just like we did on the top side. Again, some pretty simple, easy stuff that I've already shown you to do. Now we're going to do some post shading. This is where things get a bit more trickier. We're adding black to our original color just to really sort of darken up, but we're going to thin it down like probably 80 to 90% paint. We're going to come in close and we want to really work on our biting point here and really try and be careful with it. But I like to just keep moving with my post shading, not to kind of stop, just keep moving, you know, kind of keep it random, keep it non-uniform, right? You can even go off and in those odd places just sort of like make it really dark, make it just a dirty area, as you can see as I'm doing here. We can come in with the original color and get even closer. Right, so coming back, as you can see with 307 there, and we can spray inside those really dark patches to kind of represent the actual ground crew coming around with spray cans and just sort of spraying them on and sort of tidying up any scratches areas and whatnot to stop all that kind of rusting going on with that salt air. But yeah, just kind of be really careful with that and just keep passing over, get your air pressure down low as well, if you can. Probably coming down to 10 psi with that, kind of thinning down your paints. But let's say you might have to pass over it maybe 3, 4, 5 times to kind of get a nice sort of sharp, you know, good coverage on there, just to get it really fine. So do be careful with that one. Good to have a nice sort of 0.15 needle or 0.2 mil needle in there for that kind of a job, and it does look cool. A nice bit of extra weathering going on there with your airbrush. So next up, just a couple of colours here. We've got 308 and 38 there, just for like weapons and missiles. I did use the 71119 by Vallejo just to do the tips of our AIM-120s. And we use the XF11 for our GBUs just there. Now using some Mr. Colour leveling thinners and our gloss here, GX112, we're just going to put a gloss coat on our paintwork. This saves all our work and gets it all ready for decaling. As you can see, really nice shiny finish with that stuff. Just cutting out our decals now with a blade. Nice lukewarm water, just dip them in and then just let them sort of react. Well, we're going to get out the micro set to start off with, straight onto the surface, and then we're going to put our decal straight on top of that. That's going to help the decal to begin to wrinkle a little bit. It's going to help it adhere a lot more better to the model. Sewing needle is always good for that micro movement and management of the decal. After which we're going to whack some more micro salt on top. Leave that for like maybe a minute, right, and then we can get a cotton wool bud and just wipe out any air moisture from underneath the decal. It helps it kind of press down and conform a bit better to the model, right? So then we can come, I like to come in straight away with a micro sol. Right, this is the stuff that really kind of reacts with the decal, wrinkles it up, helps it adhere, makes it look painted on. You want to whack that on and let it do its business, and keep on applying until it's ready. And then we can whack, then once we're kind of looking good, you know, cut out any of those sort of recessed areas where we're showing some silver in, right, and whack on the micro salt again on top of that, which should give you pretty much a damn good, you know, painted on sort of look. Now these decaling solutions do leave, as you can see, like a residue behind. You do want to sort of rub that, you know, a bit of spit and polish and just clean that up, just to kind of remove any sort of contaminants for when we kind of do all our spray work on top of our decals, which again we're coming back with our gloss color here by Mr. Colour and Mr. Colour leveling thinners, right, and we're going to seal in those decals, sandwich them in with two kind of gloss colors there. Now it's good to kind of paint with one stroke, right, if you can. That's the best way to get a nice straight edge. Now because we've glossed this, you know, if we make a mistake like we've done here, we can come in with a cotton wool bud and we can wipe up quite easily when we've got like a gloss coat down. So don't worry too much about making mistakes, you can correct them. These masks, not the best, but they did do well with the actual wheels here. Good old tire black 77 and some Mr. Hobby colour. We can basically just spray that on now that we have a nice mask. Saves you all that painting time, which is quite nice when they add those to the kits. And we can peel that up and reveal our work, right, which does look a really nice straight bit of wheels going on there. Now we're going to do some weathering wash with some dark dirt by Flurry Models. This stuff's really easy, just slap it on. It's just like a sludge wash. Slap it on, let it dry for half an hour, slap on a second coat, right, and then you can just plain simply get your kitchen paper towels out. I like ripping them in half and just kind of go through a process. So I like to kind of clean the model once, and then it'll kind of look fairly clean, but then I like to give it another blast with kitchen paper towel. You can use spit or, you know, water, whatever, kind of just to moisten it up, and you basically just leave behind what's inside those recessed panel lines and recessed rivets. The last kind of brush over, I do like to kind of go in the direction of flow. And then cotton wool buds, great for getting into those hard to reach places, and that gives you that professional look. You've kind of shown that you put that effort in to do that. Now the landing gear and the wheel well doors perfectly fit in. You can just lay them down, bit of Tamex twin cement, then a bit of an adjust, and you know, then just leave it to dry, plain and simple. Getting at the Evil Sun Scarlet again, using the side of the brush, we can tidy up those areas where we've had to cut the pieces off the sprue. Now some, what is that, Skull Crusher Brass as a base, Lead Belcher as our main colour. We're going to paint, not spray, but paint a natural metal finish here. Now the trick to this is to like do several thin coats. As you can see, that's a really thin coat, maybe 5 coats, and then what you end up with, this kind of like sprayed on look rather than a brushed on look. So you can do natural metal finishes brushing on, but you've got to be like really thin and do lots and lots of coats to really eliminate any kind of brush strokes at all. Cocktail stick here, plain and simply just, you know, scraping away any sort of like mistakes that you've made. Streaking Grime here by Ammo. This stuff's quite good, it's enamel based. You start off by doing a bit of a streak as pointy as you can with a normal paintbrush, painting the product on. Then with some enamel odorless thinners, right, you want to take that stuff and get a flat brush. You want to make sure it's clean, you want to make sure it is also kind of damp, not wet, and about 2 or 3 passes is all you want to do, and then let dry. 2 or 3 passes, let dry, right? Even if it looks a bit just let it dry, right? Because you don't want to hydrate it too much and brush it completely away. Again, keep on keeping your paintbrush nice and damp and nice and clean, right? And you can clean up those edges as well, so you can see that where the streak's coming from is coming from a point, rather than just kind of being all over the place. You can even take one of your streaks like I've got here and sort of maybe like cut it in the middle, right? So you can kind of turn it into maybe 2 sharp streaks, right? I know I'm kind of doing more than one pass here, but I'm kind of like cleaning up around the edges rather than trying to pass over the streak, right? And as you can see, that can give you some pretty good streaks as well. There you go, looking good. Coming out again with the masking tape for some final post shading. This is where we kind of take kind of grubby parts and just give it that final bit of a darker look. Now you want this paint to be super thin, right? Like 90% thinners to paint. As you can see, very, very thin, and we could just lightly spray this on, right? Again, it's got to be thin so we don't ruin all this work we've done. Remove the masking tape and you just get that nice bit of a darker kind of looking area to kind of show that sort of worn areas, as you can see. Just getting out some matte now, which, as you can see, I've just sprayed that on nice and quick. I am moving to Winsor & Newton. I just kind of preferred that, and we could just start actually putting all our pylons and weapons on here. I like to use cheap super glue, by the way. 2 little drops. This is just to hold like weapons and pylons in place. Then I like to come in with Tamiya's thin cement just to kind of lock it down properly. So just super glue just to kind of hold it in place while you properly glue it. And there we go, all our weapons and pylons on, looking pretty beefy. Now, as I say, I didn't like the masks that come with this. There was quite a bit of overspray and there was quite a bit hard to get off. As you can see, I had to kind of peel it away with my fingers in the end. But not a big deal, you know. There are ways around kind of a bit of overspray and stuff. First thing is, you know, cotton wool bud, just clean that up. You probably have a bit of wash that's got underneath there. That comes off pretty easy. It's just the overspray of paint. That's what you want to kind of sort out. So cocktail stick that you want to nibble the end, make it that little bit moist so you don't scratch your canopy, but it's just enough to kind of just scratch. If you rub at it enough to scratch that paint to make nice straight edges. Now we're going to finish off with some nice chrome and natural metal finishes here that Mr. Colour does fantastic with. Right, this stuff is really, really thin, so kind of put your lids back on because it does cost a lot of money. PSI you want down to 10% PSI, and just lightly spray on top of that. Then you just simply kind of get out a cloth 10 minutes later, 15 minutes later, and you just rub at it, and you end up getting this really cool natural metal finish come from it. And the more you rub at it, the more it shines up. Now, cocktail sticks are going to be good for getting into those hard to reach places, and with this one I kind of rubbed at the flat areas a little bit more to shine them up, trying to leave the recesses kind of a little bit darker and grimy, just kind of add a bit of difference with that, and they just pop in so easy without even glue. And yeah, and basically that is it. That's sadly coming to the end of this video build. I hope you've enjoyed it loads. There is loads and loads more videos on the Genesis Models website, so please go check them out. You know, we've got tutorials, video builds, loads and loads of stuff on there. That's at genesismodels.co.uk. So as always, until next time, my name is Bob Waldron, this is Genesis Models, and I hope you've enjoyed.